Hey guys, this is Echo Soundworks, and you're checking out a massive tutorial on ADSR sounds. So this video is just going to be a quick tip and trick style video. We're going to look at how you can use the noise curve or noise waveform in the LFO or LFOs in Massive to kind of rough up a sound and just give certain sounds that might kind of be boring and typical a little bit more of a dynamic edge. So if you don't know what an LFO is, it's a low frequency oscillator. I don't want to get into too much of that in this video because there's a lot of resources on the internet that you can find to describe an LFO. And basically, if you're brand new, an LFO stands for low frequency oscillator, and it's what you would kind of typically hear in dubstep that would make a sound go wub, 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 wub. It's doing the wubbing. So the typical modulation points for that would be like a cutoff or an amp, right? Well, you can get more creative with your LFOs. In Massive, you can actually get very creative because Massive comes with a host of really interesting and unique waveforms. So like a synth like Silent, it comes with a few waveforms like triangle, saw, sine, all that, and then some random step type waveforms. But Massive comes with a lot of really unique waveforms, and this noise one is really fun to play with. So I have 3 different sounds pulled up in 3 different instances of Massive, and what we're going to do is we're going to look at how these can just create a little bit more of an interesting feel in the sound. So the first one is this big, like, kind of square lead you could use in a drop, trap, whatever. Let's check it out. All right, so that's the sound. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on this 5th LFO that's modulating the pitch of my only oscillator. And we're going to then kind of go and turn the amp up a little bit. Let's listen to it now. All right, so it's definitely a subtle effect the way I have it set up now, but this can be one of those things that can just create enough of an interesting sound to make the listener's ear kind of be like, oh, that's not a sound I've heard a million times before. And I only have it on one destination, and that's the pitch. So you can pitch it up higher, and it's going to be more drastic, obviously. You can actually modulate different parameters within the synth. You don't have to do the pitch. You can play around with cutoff. You can modulate the noise with a noise LFO. That can be kind of fun. But let's listen to a couple more examples of this. So next sound is a kind of like a super saw main room, big room type drop. All right, so that's coming from Massive. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on my 5th LFO that I modulated one of my oscillators with a pitch. And here it is again, noise. Let's listen to this. All right, so again, it's subtle in this instance, but it's making the sound a little bit more rough. And bigger, and it doesn't change really the whole scope of the sound, especially with this one because it's a 3 oscillator sound, and I'm just applying this pitch modulation with the 5th LFO on oscillator 1, so it's not overtaking the entire sound. Now finally, going to the far end of the spectrum, we have a pad sound. And with this, I modulated a few different destinations. I have modulated the intensity of an oscillator, the pitch ever so slightly, we'll do a little bit more, and then the resonance of my filter. So let's listen to this. All right, so let's turn off the amp on that and listen to the difference. Again, subtle, but it adds a little bit of character to the sound that makes it a little bit more unique. So let's talk about just the general guidelines to get you started with this tip and trick here. The rate should, I would say, most often be unsynced, so it's not actually like a rhythmic value. You can do that with certain sounds, pads and things like that might be cool. But for leads, it would kind of create too much of an issue. It's also nice not to have restart sync or checked always, because restart's going to, every time you retrigger your MIDI information, it's going to restart. Well, there's a lot of information in this noise wave, so on a pad, that's going to be especially useful. It's going to grit up the sound in a more random way. And you can see here that I have turned the X fade curve to not only be the noise oscillator or the noise curve. It would be too much for this type of sound. So what I did was I paired it with another one that kind of has dip downs and differences in energies. It starts real low, goes high, dips, right? Because then it's going to play with the noise and kind of do the same type of effect where it's going to not be as present the entire time. So that's the idea. It's just this cool way that you can add some characteristics to your sounds that may not be there. It's really easy to do. After your sound's already made, you can maybe just be like, okay, how can I make this a pinch bigger, pinch larger than life types thing? Throw it on either the pitch if it's a lead, throw it on the cutoff, throw it on the effects. There's a lot of different places you can use it, and it should start to make your sound more interesting, a little bit more gritty. And you can, of course, actually make whole sounds based on this idea if you exaggerate the effect. All right, guys, if you have any questions or comments, let me know below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'm Lfo Is. I'll see you next time.